Hi boys and girls, it's me, and we're in the repair layer right now, but today what we're going to do is a little bit different. We're not going to be really working on any radios today, but what I am here for are two things. One is I want to share a kind of like my top 5 list for inexpensive DX radios. Now, DXing has been around for probably, oh god, maybe 100 years by now, maybe between 90 and 100 years, let's say, where you would take a radio and you try to listen at night, usually in the wintertime is the ideal listening condition, to try to find the most distant AM broadcast station that you can find. Now here in the Northeast, and particularly here in New Jersey, the New Jersey Antique Radio Club has a contest every year where we have a DX contest, and there's different categories for different radios. And the idea is to try to pick up the most distant stations that you can. And when the conditions are right in New Jersey, you could pick up, I mean, from here anyway, I mean, it could vary, it varies for different parts of the country, or if you're in a different country altogether. If you're in Europe, there's a gent that's got a channel called Europe DX, and he does some DXing on the broadcast band as well. But in New Jersey, I could try to get stations in, say, Chicago, St. Louis, or even Cuba. And it's not unusual to get at least a dozen stations from Canada, because we're close enough to Canada we can get that many. So I'm going to show you some rather inexpensive radios, and I'm going to say 5 radios, and then one of those 5 radios is actually, you'll be very surprised, and also they're very inexpensive. And then that's the one thing. The other thing is, at the end of the video, I'm going to share my Super Bowl prediction with you. So let me get started and show you the radios. Okay, the first radio that I recommend is basically any radio that's a 6-tuber, or what I call an AA6 radio. So let me explain the difference between AA5 and AA6 for folks that have never done this before or ever heard of it. AA, that part is just basically all-American, so it's any all-American radio. The AA5 is a 5-tube radio. AA6 is the radio that's typically better for DXing. So there's even a couple types of those. So let me explain the difference. Now, AA5 radio comes in 2 different tube types. There's 12BA6, 12BE6, 12AV6, 35W4, and 50C5, which are the miniature tube type. The radios that I'm recommending are basically the GT type, which in the AA5 series would be a 12SA7, 12SK7, 12SQ7, 35Z5 rectifier, and a 50L6 output. Okay, now the AA6 radios are kind of nice because they're both pretty good, but one's a little bit better than the other, so let me explain. The typical AA6 radio would usually be say a 12SA7 and maybe a 12SK7, followed by another 12SK7, a 12SQ7, 35Z5 rectifier, and 35L6 output. Now, there are even some variations to that, where it'll start out as either a 12SA7 or a 12SK7, and then it'll use either another 12SA7 or SK7, or even a 12SF5, which I've seen in RCA sets. Now, 50% of these radios, or half of them, have a 2-section tuning capacitor, which is fine, but I would say 50% or half of these radios have a 3-section tuning capacitor, which is actually better because that has what they call a tuned RF stage. Now, the best part is you could have a 6-tube radio of either variety, preferably the tuned RF type. You can find good examples for them for anywhere from $20 to $50 that are basically workable, that can be tuned up and recapped, and you'll have a great little radio to DX with. So that's number 1. Okay, recommendation number 2 for AM Dx'ing, any car radio. Okay, so now you might be thinking to yourself, why a car radio? Well, car radios are kind of built so that they have to withstand really a pretty harsh environment when you think about it, especially for AM. Okay, they have to be moving, all right, they're not going to be in one place or stationary. They have to endure a lot of noise, you know, like noise from car motors and when they pass around high tension lines and things like that. So as such, pretty much all AM car radios have a really nice front end built into them. So their ability to pick up distant stations are really, really good. So I had taken this, now this is basically a project box and a Delco AM radio from the late 80s, probably a GM truck or S10 pickup or something like that. It's just a cheap AM radio, but they're made in Japan for Delco, and they're really, really good DX radios. So I actually used this radio this year to go into the DX contest for the club. Now, I purposely built this for two reasons. The main reason is that I wanted to have a car radio around for its DX ability. The secondly, without me having to go out to my truck. So if you're too young and you don't have a car, please ask your parents' permission before you go running away with the car keys. Explain to them that you saw this video and that you want to, get their permission to go out in the car and see how many stations you can get with the car radio. Don't go driving your mom's or your dad's car or truck away. So I wanted to have a radio that I could do DXing on. That was the main reason why I made this. And then secondly, this is also battery operated. I have a 12-volt power supply built into it, by the way, so I can run off AC power. And I also have a 7.2 amp hour battery that I can run this on. Let me turn this light off for a second. I'll turn this on so you can hear the radio. Oh, it's a radio. It's on battery.
Sure. And I think that's...
Now there is a wave rod antenna on the side of this, but right now I have this connected up to to one side of my dipole outside, and this even has a little dial light, so I could even, let me see if I can turn this off. So I don't know how well that's coming through, but you could even DX this thing in the dark by turning on the dial light. So basically you could do what I did and make something like this, or you could just sit in your car and grab a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate or tea or whatever and just sit in the car and tune around the dial a little bit. Okay, radio number 3 is the General Electric Super Radio. If you've never owned a Super Radio before, I'll tell you what, you're going to be missing a lot. I think you'll like this radio a whole lot. There's a lot of reasons I think that it could be liked. Is that, well, for starters, on the AM band, there is a tuned RF on here. And it's just really amazing broadcast band DX ability, the ability to pick up a lot of stations. So that being said, and that's what we're talking about, but also this radio actually has a separate bass and treble control. The FM is as good as the AM if you want to try to do some FM DXing, although you're going to be rather limited until you get, you run into some tropospheric ducting or something and FM band gets long. Now this is the second generation Super Radio. It's got the marking down here, Super Radio 2. One way you can tell the first generation apart from the second generation, and they both pretty much look alike. But the second generation Super Radio has the biggest key here has a separate tweeter. All right, so it's got like a little woofer and then a separate tweeter to it. Whereas the Super Radio 1 just had one speaker, and they'll go right here. Now there is a third generation Super Radio. They're okay, but I would say if you could come across one of these, either a Generation 1. The Generation 2, I think, is more of the Grail radio out of the bunch. I would get the 2 only because of the separate speakers, and it's just a really nice radio. So you could really do some DX with one of these. So this is number 3. And by the way, you can find examples of these. If you hunt around, I think you could probably find a really good one between $50 and $80, which may seem like a lot, but once you get the radio and play it, you'll know why. Okay, radio recommendation number 4. This is a the company's called Cowdecom, and the model radio, as you can see on the bottom, I don't know how well it's coming through on the video, is a GP5/SSB radio. Now, I've been watching people on YouTube bring up their Panasonic and other made radios where there's just basically a Sony radios that are basically a radio with a chip, and that's basically no different than what we have here. But this is really one outstanding radio. I was really surprised. How I found out about it is that Alan W2AEW, his YouTube channel, he's also my neighbor. He lives a town away from me, and I went to visit him one day, and he literally had this radio or another one like this, sitting close by. And I said, "What is that?" He says, "That's a radio," and his wife had gotten it for him. And he started to show me the radio, and I got turned on. I mean, big time. This radio can do a lot of good DXing, especially on the AM band. Just so you can see that. Let me turn this on. Now, this antenna up here on top is kind of cool because then you can take this and rotate it. Now, if you can look at the dial right now, let me see if I can get it to light up here. What does that say? 52 and 17. This actually shows your signal strength. Right now it's 51 and 18. Okay. There it is. Now I'll turn it around this way. And you see how it's a little bit more? Now it's 57 and 21. So you could actually use this to help null the strong signals when you're using a distant, or you're trying to pick up a distant station. So actually the way this is equipped is rather well. Now I also put this radio in a contest, but I didn't use this antenna. You could pick up for an extra $29 the optional DX antenna. And this really does a super job in nulling signals. All right, right now it's showing like 51, 49, 51. Now I'm going to null this out a little bit. See if that picks up a little bit better. It's just a little bit better than the other one, but I'll tell you what, when you're trying to pick up, say, KMOX out of St. Louis, this really makes a difference. Now this radio can be picked up on eBay for $89.95. This antenna is another $29.95 if you want to get that. And I also have this on a
AR.com/advisors. Bloomberg Politics, Policy, Power, and Law.
Let me turn this off. I have this stand right here that I had this thing standing on. And I think this was another $20. So I went nuts and got the whole package because I was really that impressed with this radio. So just the radio as is with the standard DX antenna or rotatable antenna. $89.95 on eBay, and I think it's well worth it. Now here's my sleeper choice. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoop, there it is. This is a 1960 Channel Master 6515. Now, this is the original box. If you look where it says 8-transistor radio, in small red letters it says with RF stage. Okay, and this is just a really super radio. Okay, here's the radio out of the box. I've had this radio for a long time. It just tunes from the side here, and the volume controls underneath. Pretty decent reception, and this radio actually has very nice sound to it too. Now there's two versions of this radio. There's the 6515 like we have here. Then I also have a little bit newer version of this radio. It's also in the box. This is a 6515B. Let me take it out of the box so you can see what it looks like. This radio is quite literally still in its original wrap and has never been opened, ever. You can even see the yellowing from the tape holding this thing together. This is literally a brand new radio. It's never been out of the plastic yet. So I've had this radio about 10 years. I've never taken it out. It's just so unique. But you can see the difference is that the font is a little bit different. This is a little bit more pronounced than on the 6515B than it is on the 6515 on there. But it's literally the same radio. Now the best part is you could get, well, you can get not a new in box example. I won't even want to tell you what I paid for that. You can find one of these in decent condition that may need to be recapped for between $20 and $30. So this is my sleeper choice right here. And if you don't believe me, I got proof. I actually won in 2006. Let me get a little bit better thing on here. The Broadcast Band DX contest using this radio. So there it is right there. If you look down the corner, there's the radio I did that with, 6515 with the internal loop antenna. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hey, now there's my Super Bowl pick. Okay, now finally, here's my Super Bowl prediction. Now some of you know me. Some of you know me very well. Some of you hardly know me. But for those of you that do know me, you know I'm a big Jets fan. So since I have nothing at stake here, I don't care for the Patriots. I'm tired of them winning. I think a lot of people are. However, this year I think things are going to be a little bit different because, you know, despite the actually injuries to both teams, they both played very well. The Eagles have a really, really good defense. The defense on New England is okay, but not great. But you know, Tom Brady and his offense are spectacular. But the Eagles' offense have been pretty good, even though that Carson Wentz got hurt about a month or so ago. So here's my prediction. Final score, Super Bowl. Eagles 31, Patriots 25. And if it's wrong, then it's going to be up for a long time and you can comment and make fun. Hey, thanks for watching and feel free to comment and take care. Bye.